Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of our series Power People, which provides the whosos of the music business industry. And today, on this very special episode, we have with us Mr. Mandar Thakur, CEO of Times Music. We welcome you here today, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm just very honored to be here.
So, Mandar, tell us about your music journey so far in the music business industry and how it has been till now.
Um, like I always say when I get asked this question, I will cut a rather long 33-year story very short. I think in one ride, it's always I feel blessed to have had a very checkered and successful career in music. I started when I was really young at 19 years old. So where I sit now is almost sometimes, you feel that journeys never end, right? Journeys keep
Yeah.
culminating. And if you ask me, I can really break a career trajectory in maybe three or four kind of parts, right? I mean, I don't, unlike most people today, I don't keep jumping companies or keep doing 100 things. And I started in music when there was no business to that music, right? There were no record companies, there was no radio, there was no MTV channel, and way certainly no internet. Internet came like 20 years later. There were no mobile phones. So you got to understand that this is all very pre many things. And I started off doing lighting design for rock concerts. I have managed a band, a couple of them actually, in the early 90s. I went on to be founder member of one of the most culture defining moments, I think, in Indian broadcast television and cultural history, which was the birth of Channel V and music television and cable and satellite television, fundamentally, when Star TV launched here. And then we eventually launched Channel V, literally. I kind of worked in the Hong Kong music, entertainment, concert business prior to that. And I think in 2000, getting bored, we moved on to the next thing that was just bubbling at that time, which was the internet. And we created Soundbuzz, which was technically 20 days before Napster hit the rest of the world. And then Soundbuzz was a pioneer in its field. In fact, the first MP3 player, way before the iPod, was actually created by an investor of Soundbuzz called Creative Technologies. It is called the Zen MP3 player, and we provided the backend store for it. So in many ways, a lot of my career and my time has been in sunrise industries, either helping turnaround industries or turnaround companies or begin them, right? Mostly entrepreneurial. And we sold Soundbuzz in the first ever mergers and acquisitions deal that ever happened in Asia in that space way back in 2008 when Motorola acquired Soundbuzz. And having then worked with Motorola, I kind of landed up at Times Music as a consultant. And somebody said, come do a real job and figure out what to do with this company. And here I am.
That's great. So it's been a long journey now. I mean, so how many years it has been now?
How many?
How many years?
Oh, well, about 30 years.
Oh, wow. That's so.
Yeah.
So secondly, for that, congratulations on being, named as the International Music Person of the Year at Music Expo to 2025. What does this, global recognition mean? Not just for you personally, but, for the Indian music industry on the, global stage.
I think, yeah, I mean, firstly, thank you.
Yeah.
And secondly, I think it's important to realize that it's not about the award, but it's about who gives you the award,
Yeah.
right? And I think your this award comes from one of the most successful music entrepreneurs and organizations
Yeah.
called Muse Expo that create a really boutique gathering of the best names in the music business. Happens in Los Angeles, and they do it together with the city of Burbank, which I'm
Yeah.
sure you know is the media capital of the world. It has the biggest film studios, the biggest TV companies, the biggest internet companies, so on and so forth, and the biggest music companies, of course. It's a sleepy little town outside of Los Angeles, literally. Um, So this award is actually a bunch of two, three different things. I think one part, the award, actual award itself. The second part is the actual, the disc that comes in as part of that. Then the third part is a series of proclamations from the city of Burbank, from the Los Angeles Senate and the Los Angeles County, which are signed by the senator and the mayor of Burbank. The mayor of Burbank actually hands over these proclamations themselves within the award ceremony. So it's a pretty tight thing. And I've always been non-receptive of awards only because I don't know whether the mass scale awards being handed out have any logic or meaning. I've seen hundreds of this kind of stuff in the last 32 years. And which is why I always say it's about who gives you the award and what it stands for more than the award itself. And having said that, the previous recipients of this award have been people like Dion Warren, who's the world's biggest songwriter, one of the world's biggest songwriters, and the head of Apple Music, people like Monty and Avery, which is most Republic Records, the most successful record label on earth right now, over the last decade, I would imagine. So it's the pedigree of the recipients also count. Having said that, this award is, in that sense, very not for a particular deal or anything of that sort, or an achievement or a trade or some sale done or some hit. It's for it takes a certain amount of years and a really long time to have been doing this for somebody to introspect over your career and what you're doing currently in the company you're in to be able to catch. So towards that extent, I think it's pretty big. Number two is that it's historic, and I didn't realize it till I was on stage giving that speech. That it's not I'm not only the first Indian, but also the first Asian to ever get this award. And in that sense, from a music executive perspective, it's really historic, and like I said, you realize it much later because as an executive, we're all used to power lists and this and that, and then that's like a sham, as we all know, because
Yeah.
most of the names on list, when you say a power list itself, they mean nothing, which is why when News Expo gives an award, it's really only to two or three people at every year. It's not to a list of 100 people that comes in. So it's outside of the historic significance of that award. One has to realize that we're all striving for the same thing. We're all trying to put India on the map. We're all trying to create. I wouldn't say just something as stupid as the next global superstar. That's for the kids. But I think we're all trying to create a lot of noise enough to propagate our culture globally. And I think this is an award for the industry itself, not just for me. But
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's a huge achievement, Mandar. I mean, Times Music has undergone quite a revolution under your leadership. So, what was the boldest bet you made that could have gone completely wrong, but ended up redefining the whole company?
Um, well, you never know what could have gone wrong till it does, right? To begin with. So all you can do is take fairly calculated steps and put one foot in front of the other and hope that you don't fall. And I've always kept that philosophy in mind. But yeah, we don't like screaming just of our achievements. We like them to be a little quiet and more factful. But having said that, I think we took a series of steps way back. The first thing was literally inverting the business model. We were a digital first company before most companies. We bet on music publishing. We helped create that industry today that everyone's talking about at conferences. But we were the first, from a record label perspective, to create a music publishing business. We represented some of the world's biggest music publishers, still do. And we today have a partnership as an equity partnership with Primary Wave. As you know, we were the first company that did an M&A transaction of our size and scale in Asia in the last few years, and that partnerships brings us a lot of the assets of possibly some of the world's biggest legendary superstars, legendary and iconic superstars. But having said that, we also helped create the Punjabi music industry in 2017 when we did a very significant partnership with Speed Records. which was, which, as you know, is the world's biggest Punjabi music label. But that partnership was unique in a way where everybody was like, "Don't do this; it's crazy. You're giving away too much amount of money." But it's really worked wonders for us. That partnership still continues, and we will hit our 10th year very shortly. And I think that should tell you the scale of what it helps. So a lot of these series of actions not only help Times Music, but they create little pivots within the industry, and those are important. The next step, like I said, was a significant global partnership, equity partnership that we have with Primary Wave, and again, that was because Times Music is the perfect middle. Neither are we a part of just one large global corporation, neither are we a record company that itne paise filmon mein gaye ki you have no time for anything else, right? So, as an investment opportunity, as an equity opportunity, Times Music presents itself as the perfect place, and that partnership between Times Music and Primary Wave has helped see us acquire two record companies within 18 months of these going in. We relaunched Jungly Music, which was our film acquisition arm. So we're doing a lot. We have an artist management company. We manage the fabulously talented Didar Kaur, singer-songwriters like Arya, Sanjana, and we have a co sort of representation deal for Nakash Aziz. We also help look after the careers of the Nandi sisters, social media sensation. So that's that, and our newest venture is Times Music Brands, that works as an in-house agency within the larger music company.
Just tell us more about the
Any of
science.
these could have gone wrong, by the way.
But hopefully it went really good, I think.
Yeah,
Tell us
we are
more
here
about,
and we're talking.
yeah, the Times Music Brands. Tell us more about this.
On the Times Music brand, what we realized was almost everyone in our industry is selling some part of music, right?
Yeah.
It gets confusing for brands, and number two, the brands themselves currently are so under evolved in terms. So let's just take sync as an example. Everybody knows what they want to say. It's not a creative process of unlike how it's really flushed out in the West, where the sound matters, the lyric matters. So there's a lot of science behind it. Today, when we represent, like I said, so much of America and the world's largest iconic artists like Whitney Houston, James Brown, you just name it, the list is endless, right? And for whoever's the audience, you could just check out Primary Wave. We represent all of that, all of those artists and their works are available for sync to us. We also realized that um, we took some learnings from our partners at Primary Wave, and we created this agency because they're great marketing people. They don't do the traditional record company thing. So rather than just do a one hit type of thing where you're talking to a brand, aapko kya chahiye, we thought we should do a large scale project that keeps giving value over a longer term, right? So Times Music Brands is tasked with three things. One part is to make sure that our catalog is well integrated and represented within the brand space, for things like sync. That is the lower hanging fruit. But surely the size of what we have available within India and international is significant by itself. Number two, Times Music brand will also facilitate whether it's IPs and act as a sales desk and a service for people who have ideas and IP. It's an idea hub, right? The third part of Times Music Brands is as a full service agency to brands, not just coming as a record company, sell some piece of music and run away. By full service agency, I mean that like I said, a brand's objectives can't just be met with one campaign, right? So to give you an example, how we work is, let's say the Bob Marley sort of catalog that has a stake by Primary Wave in it. We're actually creating a center in Las Vegas. It's called the Hope Road Experience. And that's like a ticketed experience. It's almost like an AR, VR experience that people can come in and do. When it comes to James Brown and the others, we've got a great tie-up, a premium partnership with Airbnb for you to possibly sleep in the bedrooms of the biggest stars on earth, right? You got a range of golf clothing with Bing Crosby. You got a line of shoe wear with Kurt Cobain of Nirvana. And there's like hundreds of these. Now, a lot of these ideas are very innovative because, like I said, they are not one-time tie-up and then out of there. These things are a chain of diners, for instance, that we're doing with somebody else. So, because we understand that this is a business of personality over just the music, what we're trying
Yeah.
to do is from ground up help the brands evolve into understanding how we can work deeper, whether we work with them or not. So it's a part educative process. We clearly divide the catalog between all the Indian works we have in Times Music and the international works that we represent in time via Primary Wave. And we also help educate the brands of how we can work because we possibly in this marketplace have the best use cases of how brands have worked beyond music into image rights, personality rights, things like that.
I said that about the same thing. The same thing in India is, still crawling while the rest of the world is, sprinting. Why are we still, struggling to unlock the full commercial value of music in advertising, cinema, or gaming? And who needs to move first? The brands, the agencies, or the, labels? What's your take on that?
See, I think it's like this. Look, sync in the West has been happening for like God knows decades and decades, right? I think it would be, it's the I would kind of give you a parallel question to your question that why is India not in the top five economies of the world, right? Who's to move first? There is nothing, nobody moving first on either side. I think it's just evolution, simple as that. I think sync is new to a marketplace. We don't have the systems, we don't have the knowledge, you don't have music supervisors. There's so many things. Rights are not easy to clear, and a lot of that contribute to a slower growth. But as much as that happens, where we were 7 years back to where we are now, there's a 600% increase in sync value, and that is significant by any standard. Sync as a concept is very, how do you call, very commonplace in the West. It's sophisticated. The brands don't try to do things themselves; they leave it to experts. Which is why I said there's Times Music brands that would work with music supervisors and work from a creative side of it. And I think honestly, it's happening in India. It's not anything that is slow or anything you can do. Yeah, you can help make the rights easier, but when in history of mankind have clearing rights become easy, right? But you just need to keep getting better and better at it. I think brands need to understand कि वो एक ही गाना नहीं जो आपको चाहिए. There are multitudes that you can solve the same purpose with, and we are here to help you choose that. You also need to make sure that we have intelligent, independent music supervisors who understand how it works. Because in the West, people are not running after the hits. It's not the hits that only get synced. It's almost everything else in your catalog. Until that broadness of vision, broadness of thinking happens out here, it will always be slow. And I think the third part is you certainly need a lot more entrepreneurs or brands that are talking to each other and understanding that catalogs are available, companies are willing to work with you, artists are willing to work with you. I think it's just a question of evolution, nothing else.
So we often, talk about the Bollywood's dominance, but Times Music has, succeeded in building non-film IP and devotional catalogs with such, long-tail value, instill values. So what does it take to make music, that's timeless in a market obsessed with, evolving trends?
See, just we started the word non-film. I think started with Times Music because we're
Right.
always a non-film company, and I think people are using it at a random. Non-film artist first, all of that, like it's very new. But those words have been floating around for 20 years. It's all Indian pop. I think people use what is that stupid term called iPop? I mean, and then there was Indian pop in the 90s. So if you're not grown up in the 90s, you think whatever you're doing is new. So and I'm sorry being blunt about it, but that's a take. But we started off in an era that was actually laden with spiritual music. And when remix became norm, we were market leaders in that with a couple of other companies. We occasionally dabbled in films, soundtracks like Sing is King, Welcome, and hundreds of them. But we never were fully vested in the film business. And before the world came to know about indie and before all these streaming services started floating around championing that, there was a Channel V and MTV and companies like Magnasound that actually created an Indian pop business, right?
Yeah.
And Times Music was born out of that era. So we were the first to released some of the best indie material that ever was from Indian Ocean's first albums, and they still continue to work with us. From Achin's first album, from Farid Kaur's first album, from Papon's first indie album. I mean, the list is endless, right? So we were always like that in our DNA. Regional seems to be cool now. आजकल conferences में बहुत ज्ञान देते हैं लोग because there are 3,000 kids sitting in an audience. And these conferences have become educative, which is very boring and silly in my opinion. And regional is always mainstream. I don't understand when we use the word regional, we put in a caste system in place. But tell me, how can a South Indian industry, which is a continent by itself, be called regional just because we sit in Bombay, right? So I think we have
Is
for lack.
regional music in India is a true global export? मतलब, or you still, or it is still being treated like a subcategory or in the streaming algorithms? What?
No, it's certainly evolved beyond a subcategory.
Yeah.
And if you had asked me that question 3 years back, I would have said yes, but not anymore today. I think you're seeing massive growth in Malayalam. You're seeing growth in many genres, right? But having said that, yes, we seem to have this obsession over regional. Fact is, all regional doesn't work.
Yeah.
Simple as that, right? A Punjabi language and a Hindi language still has global dominance because you have different cultural behavior. You have a non-resident population that is coming, and the languages themselves need to lend to music. Simple as that. Your audience size can't be, your TAM can't be so low that you call it, oh, regional. What does that even mean? So to me personally, and it's evident by when we did the Speed Records deal and how we helped create the Punjabi music industry, that we never looked upon it as regional. We never took the film route, we took this route, right? So regional has always been the mainstream. It just helps you classify that this is non-Hindi. So sometimes maybe we should use words like non-Hindi, right? Rather than say mainstream and regional. Like calling Diljit Dosanjh because he sings in Punjabi regional. That would be stupid, right?
So, what are some of the exciting collaborations coming up for Times Music, and what was your favorite collaboration of Times Music till date? I would like to know that.
I think what are my favorites is a lot. Like if you ask me what artists you listen to, just
top three, I would say till now.
I don't. I think music to me is very mood based. So it's very difficult to answer that, and especially when you do a job like mine, you're listening to everything that's coming your way. So I don't even know whether I have a taste or not anymore. And I've done the job of a programmer at Channel V, and you've done creating a digital company. So your ears get used to listening to everything. So nothing. What was favorite? I grew up listening to rock music, but that's not really very something I get to listen to every day now. But when you say your favorite collaborations, look, I don't think India or any record company has cracked a collaboration. It's as black and white as that. I think we're all chasing up the wrong tree. We think that foreign audiences बैठे दिन रात कहाँ पे गया? Where is this big Indian superstar? Why have they not come? I mean, nothing as stupid as that, right? I think we all understand that we cater to the diaspora markets to film. We all understand that we need to cater to a non-diaspora audience. That is fact number one. Fact number two is whether it crosses over, you have to define what that crossover means. Crossover is not Arijit Singh selling to 120 millions outside. That you're just selling to an audience that is Indian, but sitting in a different territory. It is not called a crossover.
Yeah.
Third is, I think crossover, sometimes when labels go wrong, is forcing two artists in a room. And some of the songs come out, and this is just a personal opinion, no dig at my peers and friends. I think we're all, like I said, working towards the same purpose. But none of the songs seem to have made an impact like Latin has made an impact. And Latin, mind you, started making an impact day one across the world. India has a long way to go. We speak the language. I believe we have some of the world's most amazing songwriters. We have certainly have phenomenal artists, but we need to be clear that when music is being made, it's a creative process. It's magic. It's not made on an Excel sheet. So suddenly to say, we keep throwing dartboards onto it, it's not going to happen. So we basically took an old school approach. We got DJ White Shadow, whose name is Paul Blair, and Anthony Watts, who works with a lot of K-pop people and Pitbull and so on and so forth. And they're part of our primary wave network. And we kept quiet. We didn't announce it to the world. We booked 2 weeks in Yasha Studios, and they were down here recently working with Didar, who we managed, working with Arya. And we just threw people in a room and we didn't give them a brief, but what came out is magical, and hopefully the rest of the world will hear some of the songs that come from there. But we also learned the process of what we shouldn't do. Silly things like putting hundreds of writers together in writing. That's not our style. I think we are more focused on an approach of sound over anything else, right? And I think once you're able to do that, even Latin America, I don't think, and this is what Paul Blair, DJ White Shadow. I was in America at the awards and we were having a drink later, and he said, I think, and these words resonate very well. And even he said, look, when Latin came out, people didn't listen to Latin music just because J Lo and Ricky Martin were Latin. People listened because we were getting out of Europop and you're getting into another form of dance music. It's like how glam rock moved to grunge, right? Because people got fed up. It's why Bollywood has crashed now. Nobody wants that shit anymore of the same syrupy music going on and on. And somebody's got to say it out loud. And you will get a better form of music, but of the same quality, just interpreted differently. I think it's that, and I think we believe that that is what the process is, and we'll continue to. We have two, again, of the world's biggest songwriters coming in this year, and we'll announce it as and when they happen.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, what's your take on AI in music? I would like to know that.
Actual intelligence or artificial intelligence? Which one you're asking?
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. Okay. I think, like I said, time will tell when artificial intelligence becomes actual intelligence or not. But having said that, AI is a utility. It's not going to go away, right? You use AI in your daily life and you will keep using it, and the usage of that will grow like you drink water. Having said that, on the creative sides of it, I am with the rest of the industry when and we're all fighting cases with various people. But fact of the matter is, AI is not a free meal ticket to come and impinge on our repertoire that has been made by musicians and artists from their sweat, from their talent, that has been funded by record companies, and that are today not always in the best of the health. As you know, har koi gana chalta nahi hai. So it doesn't mean big tech. It doesn't mean anybody can come and just plunder it and use it under and call it fair use. And it certainly doesn't mean. In fact, I'm insulted the fact that people like Jack Dorsey or Elon Musk have actually said, just delete all IP laws. I think, honestly, in my opinion, Jack Dorsey should first figure out how to run his own companies and not make sure they're loss leaders, rather than worry about impinging on somebody else's copyright. But having said that, we embrace AI. We embrace AI responsibly. We encourage our people to use technology in a creative manner. So a lot of the musicians that work with us, a lot of talent that work with us, a lot of video producers that work, we are encouraging them to use more and more AI, not with the intention of anything else, because for us the song is always the North Star. And anything that betters, anything that gives us a hit is always welcome. That's our motivation to it, with obviously the appropriate copyright guardrails. That means works and our culture don't get destroyed in a transactional moment.
So in this time, independent music versus music labels. It's like going that only in the industry. You don't need a music label in this time to be successful, because in this time you put a music on Instagram and it goes viral, then the song gets on the trending list. So what's your take on this scenario?
Um, like I said, there's only music and there's music labels. The rest of it is just a form of music. I don't understand independent music as a term, because in the United States, independent music has been there for 100 years. It basically meant when you're independent, you're independent. You're Aam Janta, you're an independent, free-spirited musician. When you get signed by a label, you become mainstream. Your releases are mainstream. The biggest in the world have all come from independent. They've all become stars because they're signed to a label. Occasionally these days you get described. So I think the only, देखो ऐसा है ना कि आपके बिल्डिंग के नीचे आपकी सिक्योरिटी एंड जो आम जनता खड़ी है और बात कर रही है, you don't have to take everything seriously. Correct? Everybody has their thought process. Everybody has their frame of vision. Everybody looks at the world from their window. So जब भी कोई भी किधर की बात करते रहोगे तो हर रास्ते पे, सॉरी टू यूज द वर्ड, पर हर कोई जो बात करे उसके सुनते जाओगे तो आपकी जिंदगी नहीं कटने वाली, ना धंधा होने वाला है. करेक्ट. Mostly people who talk that they don't need record labels are probably, like I said, sorry to use the word, but possibly born in the Instagram generation. जिंदगी में और कुछ देखा नहीं है. तो my way is the right way. It's always that. So I would urge people to be a little more intelligent. I seriously suspect that musicians should focus on making music that resonates with millions of people. Record labels should do what they do best, which is look at talent and bet on talent. Record labels should not be honestly just doing trading. We are suffering today because of this whole culture of being dependent on Bollywood, as good or bad as it seems. And I think Aam Janata should just shut up. That's it. The only thing that should talk is success and a hit, not some stupid Instagram trend, or certainly not some stupid chart position. It means nothing. The whole industry had 0% growth. So anybody who thinks they know better, they should start a record label or just put out music and become a star. There's no stopping anyone. I don't even understand why this debate even comes. It only comes when people behave like haves and have-nots. So the have-nots will always scream, the haves will always keep quiet. That's my simple take on it.
That's great. So you have been honored globally, but what's still unfinished business for Mandar? What part of Indian music story do you feel hasn't been written yet? And what role do you want Times Music to, play in telling it to the audience?
I think it's a very simple thing, and this is not about business models. Times Music is an incredible company. I think we pride ourselves on being real independents, right? We're housed in a corporate. We are a mini major, but we operate like an island. And I think, which is why I said, when any idiot calls themselves indie, it's like a calling card, right? True independence is staying alive for 40 years without major support and building a business. That's called independent. So we pride ourselves on that. The second thing is we always started as an artist company. We were not backed by film. We didn't have significant investments, and I think the world is coming back full circle, which is why I made that comment earlier. It must be just kids who are talking about artist first or non-film, because from what I remember, everybody was doing it any which way. That's it. You got a bit more streaming. There is a bit more media. There is a bit more awareness. I would honestly, as far as we are concerned at Times Music, we are going to be betting on artists very heavily, which is why the company is structured to grow laterally as opposed to putting song after song after song. We believe that we are. It's not about the world is ready for. No, no. The world is always ready for artists. We also need artists that have significant personality. You're in the business of creating startup. Simple as that. You are in the business of creating hits. All your machinery needs to revolve around that. The brands will come to you if you have what they need to reach to young audiences. So, in my opinion, we are about audiences as much as we are about music. So, in the future, I think what we need to do, it's not about what is left, Ojasvi. I believe in that the mantra of right, do what you can with what you have and where you are. So, there's not strategy or grand rubbish, right? I think it's a very simple thing that this music industry needs to be fairly global in nature. One. Number two, the music industry cannot be a shadow of the film industry, betting on soundtracks only. We need to do that and we need to do other things. Third thing is we need to have an ecosystem, and that's not called artist first. I don't think most people understand it. I think it's really about for us and individually that rather than be in the trade of music where you're betting, where you're not contributing to the process, we would only like to work with artists that are as invested in us in the longer term. And this is a fault of the record labels and artists as well, that we don't trust each other and we work with us transactionally. Artist को लगता है पैसे ले लो एक टाइम record label पे लगता है इस पे थोड़े पैसे लगाओ तो अगर हिट बन गया तो जिंदगी बन जाएगी. If that mentality goes away is when you have an industry. So hopefully we'll continue to champion that and put our money where our mouth is.
That's great. So it's a kind of the same question, but I would like to ask you that where do you see music business going in next 5 years at a global stage, or what?
So look, I'm not going to use the word global. It's so loosely worded. It's like saying I need to brush my teeth in the morning, right? It's a stupid word. Everybody uses it without even knowing it. by the size of your diaspora, you're always global.
Hmm.
Every Indian record label, possibly, I mean, I'm talking real record labels of size who've been around for a while, would make more than 20, 30, 40% of its turnover from overseas markets. By the very fact that Indians are so much around the diaspora and consuming music means you make money. We always have been global. The true global means when you have stars that are resonating with non-Indian audiences, when you have hits that are generating outside there. It's not because India se aake udhar jayega. Um, so I think in terms of quant, one is the creative side that you wish, and I think all of us are working towards that relentlessly. And I can say that on behalf of a lot of artists. I can say that on behalf of a lot of record labels. I know investments are being made in that direction. But if you ask me from a quant perspective, we would like, and this I'm saying wearing our industry hats, we would like for India to be a top 10 market in the world within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, Will that happen? Not unless music subscriptions take off. And you're seeing right now, after 20% CAGR growth year on year for the last 7 or 8 years, this year we reported between a 0 and a 2.5% growth, which basically means the changeover from free streaming, VC funded models to paid subscription is yet to happen. Processes like that take between 2 and 4 years. Adoption is a big challenge in a market like India. Many factors to it, right? And you want existing players to survive, right?
Yeah.
And I think only when you have an industry like that and model that you can actually say that you're hitting that. Only when you have hits in the market can you call yourself actually a top 10 player. So my message, I think, to everyone is very simple: that it's nice and fine and dandy to give visionary statements, but I think we need to be cautiously optimistic. Like I said, our aim remains to be a top 10 market globally within the next 5 to 6 years, along with all our industry colleagues who believe that. But to do that is going to take incredible hard work. It's going to take incredible level of commitment from talent and not just fighting over royalties and stupid statements of us against them. I think it's going to go back to the art of writing brilliant songs and understanding markets and working so much with the West that you're truly creating something that's outside of your little vision. And hopefully, when that happens, we will have by size an industry that works big.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Mandar, for your time. It was a pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for making it
Ojasvi.
fact.